Grace and peace, and spoiler alert for the movie Clueless. If you haven't seen Clueless yet, what are you? Me? Because it took me until recently to finally see it. But I saw Emma last year, and so I wanted to see Clueless, and I made time, and we checked it out while we're stuck at home with the lockdown, the quarantine. Yeah, so Clueless, if you're not already familiar, is basically a reskin of the Jane Austen story of Emma. So I watched the most recent Emma story, and it follows like plot point for plot point, character for character, the exact same plot, except it removes from Emma what I thought was the climax, right? Like the moment of highest drama in this Regency era England, which was the moment when Emma insults Mrs. Bates. That's just not in there, and that scandal and so on, we just skip over that part. And as a result of that, what's left is a much deeper character study that uncovers a very, very different theme from any theme I recognized in Emma that has to do with this. Toxic charity. Let me hold that up a little different there. It has to do with being idealistic to a fault. So Claire in the movie is the popular girl at school, and she's a dumb ditzy blonde, but she's not like demonized for that, right? And you know, Legally Blonde and other movies have kind of picked that up and run with it. And it inherently represents that a part of being that girl is being nice, is being the nicest girl in school. Like that's a part of her identity, and it's a part of what she wants and what she cares about. Now, I'm not sure if that's something that Clueless invented for this character, or if it just uncovered it from layers of poshness in Emma originally, because of course Emma does the same things Claire does, right? Like Emma gets her teachers engaged and thinks it's cool that they got together, but you don't see the same level of like philanthropy that you see in Claire. Of course, our introduction to Claire, one of her earliest scenes is her debate about the Haitians.
Share 2 minutes.
So, okay, like right now, for example, the Haitians need to come to America. But some people are all, what about the strain on our resources? But it's like, when I had this garden party for my father's birthday, right? I said RSVP because it was a sit-down dinner. But people came that, like, did not RSVP. So I was, like, totally bugging. I had to haul ass to the kitchen, redistribute the food, squish in extra place settings. But by the end of the day, it was like, the more, the merrier. And so, if the government could just get to the kitchen, rearrange some things, we could certainly party with the Haitians. And in conclusion, may I please remind you that it does not say RSVP on the Statue of Liberty. Thank you very much.
So you can see she's clueless, she's ditzy, she's not aware of like the levels of meaning and nuance that are at play, but she's also smart. Like she's not lacking intelligence. What she's lacking in is wisdom. She has all of the trappings, all of the appearances, but none of the phronesis, none of the real capability to get things done. And then contrast that with Josh, Paul Rudd's character, who does not have any understanding of like appearance or any value for those kind of things, comes off as a slob, but actually has like a real sincere value for work and a real knack for understanding what people need and how to give it to them. Well, unsurprisingly, the unwise forwarding of philanthropic efforts by Claire results in disaster, because good intentions without wisdom and without a tendency to listen and learn is destructive. It's more than shallow. It's more than laughable and meaningless and a waste of effort. It's hurtful. And yet, for so much of my life in church, I feel like that's what I've been encouraged to be. I've seen so many messages and so many mentors kind of push me in the direction of the heart matters, not the head. But we need heads to direct hearts, and that's where this comes from. This is a book about the fact that sometimes when we try to help people, especially people in the third world, and we don't understand the dynamics that are at play, we can do more harm than good, right? So sometimes we're, for instance, shipping our clothes off somewhere because there are garbage, right? Like, we don't need the clothes anymore. We want them out of our house. We're decluttering. So we give the clothes away to someone in Africa, and then they get one shipment of clothes, but then local clothing merchants go out of business. And often we're not giving people what they really need or what they ask for either. This is another book about it, When Helping Hurts. Starting to pay attention to a little bit of a new wave of mission thinking that pays attention to, hey, we need more than good intentions. And we need to ask questions about the right ways to do things. And more than anything, we need to build relationships and be ready to humble ourselves and not cast ourselves as the hero and be excited to help mainly for what that does for us and for our image, which is exactly what's wrong with what Claire's doing. It's not that her heart's in the wrong place. Her heart's in the right place, but her agenda is misguided and wrong-headed. So how do we do it? What's the right way to solve the problems of the world? Well, thank heavens, Clueless is here to answer that for us. The way we do it is we try. That's what Claire did. She realized that her attempt to be nice did damage, and so she worked to do better, and she tried different things, and she made mistakes, and she grew as a person. And that's what the church needs to do. I might be out on a limb here. Like this is not the book answer, but I think we need to engage in a little bit more toxic charity, because we can't not. We have to keep trying to help. And so often when we start to engage in this subject, we lose track of that. Because sometimes you can read these books and you can say, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to be the smart guy. And now I know how to criticize the good you're doing, and I don't have to do any myself. But that's not the message. Instead, what we need to do is we need to keep trying, but we need to try now with an open ear and with an eye to the mistakes we're making, and try to do better and find the ways to help that help. But we do. We need to try. We need to do more than criticize.
Ms. Stoger, that machine is just a lawsuit waiting to happen.
Thanks for the legal advice. Dion, you're up.
Oh no, Miss Stoger. I have a note from my tennis instructor, and he would prefer it if I didn't expose myself to any training that might derail his teachings.
Fine. Amber?
Miss Stoger, my plastic surgeon doesn't want me doing any activity where balls fly at my nose.
Well, there goes your social life.
And trying means doing it wrong and being awkward and even engaging accidentally in toxic charity sometimes, but also being willing to look at our mistakes and to listen to what the people we're trying to help have to say about what they actually need, and be ready to admit that we are clueless. That's what we need. We need the realization Claire had. Yeah, we've been a little bit like a ditzy popular girl in the way we have engaged with the global poor. Help us to do better. You know, it's getting near the end of the video, and I know on YouTube people drop off, so I want to kind of give this piece at the end to say, whenever we hear hard messages like this, right? Like the message, "You are clueless," is a lot like the message, like, "You're a sinner." We need to have something to rest on. Otherwise, we'll just be blown back by it, right? Otherwise, it just feels like criticism, and it feels like an attack, and I get defensive, and it's, oh no, you're telling me that I'm dumb, and that means I'm like worth less as a person. My value is reduced. But what makes it possible to engage in all these things? What makes it possible for us to address the toxic charity that we have participated in and admit that we're clueless and still like feel okay about ourselves is grace. Is this recognition that we are loved in our cluelessness. If we weren't loved in our cluelessness, we'd never be able to admit that we were as clueless as we are. But the fact that we're loved, again, this is represented in Claire, helps us to say, well, good. The fact that Christ died for us before we had repented, before we had chosen him, gives us the room to say, well, now I do want to repent. And I hope you feel that in my words, in my tone of voice, if not my explicit explanation, as I continue to explore these issues, such as I will the next time on Movie Pastor.